because so many people are just emphatically just like excited about learning AI.
Yes.
Excited about learning how to do more with it. And I said it a minute ago, but the hook that I find myself saying a lot lately is the number one mistake people make when trying to learn and grow with AI is they try to automate things that they haven't mastered manually.
Correct.
Which is lazy. You got to figure out how to do it before you're going to ask AI to do it. Or you ask AI, how do I do it? Unpack that and then have it automate.
Hello everyone, Sergio Tuffer here and welcome to Cracking the Code, the podcast where we uncover the real strategies, mindsets, and systems that separate the elite from the rest. Today, we're honored to be joined by someone who has coached successful real estate teams across the country, from small teams to those doing hundreds of transactions a year. He's a trusted Tom Ferry business coach, team leader, and someone who deeply rooted in practical systems-driven success. Andy Nazaroff has spent more than a decade mentoring agents and teams to think bigger, work smarter, and pursue profitable growth, not just bigger numbers. From planning and execution to accountability and lead generation mastery, Andy's insight come from real coaching, real data, and real results. With that said, let's jump right into it. Andy, how you doing today? Thanks, man. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate someone of your caliber joining on our show.
Yeah.
It's highly valuable for all of the viewers that we have. So we're trying to grow that audience as much as possible, and people that can provide as much value as you do. It's definitely a plus for us. So how you doing today?
It's an awesome, beautiful day in the mountains in Northern California.
So you guys had no winter over there? Because I know that like the entire, Sun Belt.
No, we sent it all to the East Coast. It seems like it's, as we're recording this, it's January and 26, and it feels like spring.
Nice.
In the mountains. It's like in the 60s and sunny and beautiful, and I get to live here. So.
Awesome. Well, fun fact, I was in Costa Rica last week with my partner, and he's still stuck there. I came back on Sunday, and the airline said that he is going to be able to leave until Friday. So he's been there for 4 days already, and it's going
mostly because he's going back to East Coast, right?
Yes. So he's not going to be able to leave until he's not happy about it. I was like, at least you are in Costa Rica, so might as well enjoy it.
Exactly.
Awesome. So Andy,
rough place to get stuck.
Yeah, it's the right place to get stuck. So for the ones that don't know you, you are coaching with Tom Ferry. We were talking about that you used to run a brokerage of 500 plus agents in California. You were a CEO and a big operator, and that's how people, got to know you and all the value that you can provide. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and expand into details if you don't mind?
Sure. Well, I have the pleasure of working with real estate leaders in my coaching practice, as well as in my other business. But my coaching practice is really a consulting with real estate team leaders, business owners, brokers, from as small as 10 agents to a few hundred. And my background, I was an agent first. I grew up in mom and pop real estate, since I was a kid. And then eventually, found my love for leadership. I was an agent, but then I found my love for leadership. And then that, when you're a leader, you either are a strong leader, producer of a team, or you end up going the path like I did, which was I started at recruiting, then coaching, then training. The only thing I didn't do
the whole
was
cycle.
I didn't do janitor and finance, although I managed a branch office, and they would argue you're cleaning up a lot of messes when you're managing in the sales manager job in branch offices of about 60 agents. But I ended up being general sales manager, then CEO of the company in a Berkshire Hathaway owned organization many years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. But I've had the pleasure of working in Tom Ferry's ecosystem for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And that has it's been awesome, and I work with teams and companies all across the country. And then my other company, I own a company called Affiliated Services Group, and we specialize in helping real estate teams and brokers, very similar to the type of client that I coach, but we help them bring in mortgage into their operation and figure out ways to streamline, how do I not just sell houses, but how do I bring in, another revenue stream by bringing a mortgage in a RESPA compliant way.
Awesome. And in that brokerage that you used to run, anything worth remembering that changed your life and the way that you're coaching right now? Because a 500 plus brokerage is large. It's probably not the biggest, but it's quite large, and I'm sure that it gave you a lot
inside
of...
the Berkshire ecosystem, it was small. But if I understood your question, like a lesson from then, is that what you're asking?
Yes, precisely.
It was the power of delegation was definitely present, but his influence, the primary lesson that I learned there is what's influenced my coaching practice today. And maybe it's something we can end up unpacking, but it's this tactical approach to looking at the operational units of any organization, particularly a real estate organization, operational units, and being able to segment those out, and then to make sure that everybody that is in leadership in those operational units knows what the company is shooting for as a goal. They're clear on their goal, and they know, this is the biggest importance, they know what it takes to win the day, the week, the month. Versus I show up, I scratch off tasks from my list, I knock out my things to do, and my measure of feeling successful is I go home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so busy today. I got so much done. But did you really move the needle? Did you get us closer to what we're shooting for, and so on? So that lesson of what I learned in getting out of this whirlwind and getting people to be measurable and productive towards the company goal, towards the goal, what they've set for their department, and so on. It sure is valuable, important, and influences my coaching practice.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question, because usually you coach around profit planning, right? So how do you really connect goals, setting high production numbers versus the actual profit? Because a lot of people get lost in the weeds with all sorts of KPIs all the time. And I did this, I did that. And the last person I had, funny enough, was Tom in the podcast. So Tom said something to me that really struck me. It was, there's no any other KPI that you have to measure than appointments met. Mm-hmm. Anything else is irrelevant. So you can have 10 leads, but if those 10 leads are appointments, then you probably are producing a lot more than the agents that have 100 leads and just 2 appointments.
So that's really true for an individual agent, right? And it's also true for you think about that common denominator that Tom highlighted of appointments met. You could coach appointments met, measure appointments met to an individual agent, as well as a high performing team, as well as a couple thousand agent brokerage. My mentor, 12, 15 years ago, he had a 1,600 agent brokerage in Atlanta, major metro of Atlanta. And when you think about 1,600 agents, that is a pretty good lab to test some ideas in. And so he tested in one branch office, he tested conversations. Let's measure conversations. In this other one, let's measure leads. In this other one, let's measure dials, and so on and so forth. And number one lead measure metric to track out of all of that, the one that had the most influence, the one that was like most predictive of them hitting their goal as a company, was new appointments met. And Dan saved me the trouble. Dan Forsman, shout out to you. You're retired and enjoying golf, probably winning some senior PGA tour by now. But Dan's like, the new appointments met, if you track this, don't do what I did. Don't spend all your time trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Track this, measure this. It's still true today. New appointments met. The irony, though, is when you start breaking that down into the other operational units, it's not true. You can't say new appointments met is going to be true for the person in marketing. Right. The person that's leading a marketing department, that doesn't work out. Well, what is true for somebody that's running the operations side of a company? It's not new appointments met. It's surely not new appointments met for the person in finance. But most real estate team leaders don't know what to do to break that down to what influences, what predicts that department winning its job, its goal, its contribution to the overall company. And we oftentimes, that's where we have to roll up our sleeves as a coach and figure out, well, what is it? What are we shooting for? What makes sense based on where that marketing director is at right now, where that person that's the operations director is at right now, based on the company's maturity? What would make sense for them to measure and target towards?
Is it necessarily that you have to have more conversations in order to have more appointments set and met, or you can have high number of appointments without having that many conversations? Because I know a lot
Well,
of coaches and team leaders and in general, business owners, they're like, you need to be on the phone. You need to call. And I don't know if that's really true or not. I mean, like, for example, in my business, in the virtual assistant company business that I have, we don't really have that many conversations, but I have at least 3 or 4 appointments a day, right?
sure.
And so we have a high conversion rate, but we don't really call a lot. It's really like 10,
Well,
12
and so
leads
I
per
think
week.
the answer is you're saying it, Sergio. The answer is it depends on your lead intent. If the quality of your leads is high intent, bottom of the funnel, then you're going to find that your teams don't have to have as many conversations. However, the trade-off is the expense of the lead. The referral fee of the lead is going to be at a much higher tick. On the flip side, if I've got a team that doesn't do online leads, doesn't do bottom of funnel, doesn't do high intent type leads, and they're door knocking, they're working expireds, they're doing things that require a lot more conversations, then it's going to be dials, conversations until we find appointments. Every company is different, and to take one formula that is saying this is true for real estate companies applied to all does not work out.
Right, because I know you often talk about leveraging different lead sources, door knocking, open houses, farming, maybe mailers. I don't know, and I know a lot of agents overlook this very basic systematic systems. They want the last fancy lead source that is out there. What kind of conversations do you have with your teams? Because I'm sure you do talk about that. Say, hey, this is, we've been doing it for 40, 50 years, but it works, right? You have to do
Sure.
it.
The approach to lead sources and diversity of lead sources, I think, is directly proportionate to the risk reward tolerance of leadership. So I take a great team like Riley Smith in Miami. They don't do anything with Zillow or Realtor.com or online leads, resistant. And yet you look at their business model and they're, north of 400 million in sales and have a business plan in place to get us to 1 billion in a couple of
I know
years.
Riley.
Riley's a great guy. And
I know
when I
him.
look
And
at that business,
go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say real quick that I met one of his agents, and the guy did like 50 million, and he said, "Do you know how I make this?" And I was like, "No." Well, I go on golf courses, and that's all I do. Like, I meet
I know
all
the
my
agent you're
clients,
talking about.
and I was like, "How many millions did you make?" 50 millions in sales. So I was like, "And all you do is just go to golfing with people?" And like, yeah, that's all I do. And I was like, "Oh, right."
That particular agent is a networking mastermind. The challenge is you have to be diverse, though, and so you go to another guy that you work with, like Ryan Adams out of Houston, who has an unbelievable farming campaign. He's just spoke about it at our elite retreat, and Ryan's market share in his master plan community that he's been farming for years is a leader. He's number one in his market share. Why is that? Well, it's because he's been all in on it, but it's not the only thing they're doing. I think when you're looking at your lead sources, you've got to analyze, what percentage of my lead source focus is buyer versus seller, and it's now versus nurture. And so if I can look in all 4 of those quadrants, in my opinion, it would behoove somebody to spend time in each one of those quadrants. Buyer, seller, now nurture. So take one like the farming guy. The person that's doing the geographic farming is obviously targeting predominantly sellers. However, you would argue a lot of it is nurture. So I can't go all in on farming if I need business today. I would say to that same person, what if we looked at the other lead sources that would give us now business inside your geographic farming? And we could talk about expires. We could talk about open houses, which tend to be a little bit more now, and buyers and sellers. So they have to diversify like that. Everybody's approach is, I hope and pray that it's not all in. Riley's is a classic example because they're doing a tremendous amount of investment this year in marketing. And when I look at a team like his, whose network, Riley's network is feeding that team. He owns Coconut Grove. He owns everywhere he goes to eat, to dine, to drive, etc. Everybody knows Riley. And as a result, that's cultivated. Well, what they don't see is he's spending a lot of money in mailings. What they don't see is his multi-channel approach to YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and the like. And he's producing content every single day, and it's everywhere. And so he's got this illusion of presence, but most people don't see that. They just see Riley driving by in his golf cart, and then he gets business, and then he refers it to one of his agents.
And working on flip-flops all the time.
Linen shirt, don't cut it short. Shorts, linen shirt, and flip-flops. Even if it's a full tuck.
He's a personality. So I know you've coached teams, like you said, there are maybe 10 agents and large teams as well. What are some of the operational hiccups that you see when they try to go from being a smaller team to a much larger team and adding 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lead sources and doing more content and new CRM? What are some of these operational hiccups because maybe they did not take the time to put the SOPs in place correctly, and maybe they grew or trying to grow too fast?
Yeah. So it starts with them identifying the things that slow them down. And what most of them don't realize is the thing that slows them down is the reactionary items of their day. It's the calls, the clients, the texts, the emails, the you got a minutes, the agent on the other side of the transaction that's creating drama that's unnecessary, the loan officer who maybe has their head in the sand, we call it ostrich syndrome, and it's really making it difficult to get an answer on where we're at on this deal. All of that can be described in one word, and that word is the whirlwind. And if they're encapsulated in the whirlwind, they're not really operationally able to work on the business. They're always in the business. And I do this exercise with some of my newer clients where I have them organize by person what they're responsible for. Right. I don't give them a whole lot of guidance on it. I say, just go kind of like an org chart, but a little bit different, where I say, okay, tell me what Johnny does. Tell me what Sally does, and so on. Inevitably, the list that comes back on our next call is all fire putter outer roles. This is what they do. And it's a list of things that in their mind, they just did today or yesterday. To which I say, okay, great. Congratulations. It looks like everybody in leadership is in the operations position. Because all they're doing is taking a fire hose to the things that happen during their day. No, don't get me wrong. Amazing people with foresight, but they're stuck in the whirlwind. This magic of getting them to pull up to 30,000 feet together and to look at their business through what I walked them through, which is 5 operational units. We have to look at your business in sales, in recruiting, in marketing, in ops, and in finance. And each one of those 5, who's in charge of it? What is its missional goal that contributes to the overall company goal? Most leaders go, well, sales, and they spit out all these numbers because it's easy. It's very linear. Recruiting, how many agents do I need? It's about appointments and going on appointments and recruiting agents. And it's also about keeping those agents. Not that hard, very linear, very sales-minded. Most real estate agents get that. But then we get to marketing. And I start first with, well, how are we launching our listings and how are we servicing the existing business we have? But then we're talking about creating. What if your marketing department was producing at least 30% of your overall company leads and you're not paying for them? But you guys, if the marketing director was doing their job, they're creating and they're providing, and it produces a really healthy ROI for the team. Operations, I think when a lot of operations people look at it themselves as they're the person that's in the weeds to free up the leader so they don't have to be in the weeds. The leader can stay focused on sales and recruiting. But the truth is, ops, if they're responsible for transaction coordinating, listing coordinating, et cetera, if they're really doing their job, they influence the 5-star reviews. And so I challenged my leaders, what if you measured your ops department based on what percentage of your closed transactions are getting 5-star reviews? And if that's what, in most cases, it's sad. It's like less than 20%. Not because they're getting bad reviews, but because they're not asking at all, and therefore they're getting no reviews. So what if we operationalize the ops department to get more 5-star reviews and we incrementally increase over what you've had before? Now, all of a sudden, those in the ops department are missionally going towards something versus just showing up, knocking out tasks, finishing their to-dos, and feeling like they accomplished something because it's close to everything checked off.
Absolutely. And, picking up a little bit on that is, I'm not going to mention his name, but I have a friend. He has
Oh, do it. It gets more juicy if I mention names.
I wish I can, but some of the agents are that the story that he told me, the agents are still with him. So if I mention his name, they'll know who it is. So essentially, he told me that about 6-7 years ago, 30% of his agents were bad. He was really trying to get rid of them. He didn't know what to do with them. And then his coach convinced him to be patient. And he told me about 10 months ago that these agents that he didn't fire at the time now are his rock stars and his top producers. So I know team leaders battle with that all the time. You're recruiting, but then some of the agents don't want to call. They don't want to go into certain appointments. And, I'm 1099, so I don't have to do what you tell me to do, kind of things, right? So how do you wrestle with that in between, being patient with an agent, keep coaching the agent, or just fire fast and just recruit more? Mm-hmm. What is your take on that?
Man, that is a very loaded question. And
I know, right?
we could have taken that one question and really unpacked it, but let me give a stab at it. And I think that, knowing what your great company does to provide as a service to leaders like this, if there's something that when you broke down ops or you broke down marketing and we get them delegating to staff, virtual staff and otherwise, the highest and best use of that leader's time is with what you just described. And the irony, it happens to, if they really think about it, it happens to typically be the better, more favorable split to leadership in the brokerage, therefore the better opportunity for return on investment. What tends to happen in most real estate companies is leadership spends more time with the top producers.
Right.
They give more attention to the top producers, and some of it maybe is out of favoritism, but it just naturally happens. Maybe it's the amount of activity, and there's more neglect, less time with the people that need it the most. And so I couldn't tell you exactly who I picked this up from, but many years ago, I got exposed to this concept of performance, rewards, and expectations. And what it simply says is we take the whole notion, the trend that when somebody performs at a high level, we give them more time. We actually also expect more. Like you talk about the real estate leader that is running a training and they're upset because their top producers aren't there.
Yeah.
They expect their top producers to be at everything that they do. And in the meantime, that top producer is going, I butter your bread. I'm the reason why you have such great production. I'm there. Why do you demand that I'm here and all these things? And at the same time, that lower producer, they're showing up, they're hungry, but they're not necessarily getting fed. And so what we do is we flip this whole notion on its head and say, from the beginning of your time with the team, the lowest level of performance or the lowest seasonality of your tenure, we have the highest level of expectation. And as you perform more, our expectations go down. So what I do in working with the team is I say, let's write that list of expectations. I know, I get it. They're 1099, they're independent contractors. but I could still create a list of expectations that we expect that if you're here, you'll do these things. And if you don't, it's fine. We're just maybe not the right team for you. And so what we do when we create that list of expectations, it's actually a blueprint to move them up their levels of performance. It's not a punishment that says, if you're here, I expect you to do these things. It says, in order for somebody to go from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 in a team like ours, the successful agents do these things. So if you want to be successful on this team, follow this list of expectations. If you don't, no big deal. Have a good day. We're not the right team.
Right.
Conversely, the rewards of somebody on a team increase as their performance increases. But when they're starting with us, they might not get access to brand new online leads that are bottom of funnel, that are high intent. They might only get access to leads that are in the database, that are older, that need more nurturing until they prove themselves. They might not ever get access to listing leads. Those only get given to rewards of the higher level performers. Point is, performance, rewards, and expectations. I would take somebody in the situation you just described, create the blueprint based on what they know, that particular team knows to be true to find success. I have lots of suggestions. And then we enforce that or reinforce that with their team saying, this isn't intended to kick you out, it's intended to promote you up. And I can tell you, almost guarantee you that if you follow this list of expectations, I will see you at level 2 or level 3 within 90 days.
That makes sense. But it's very hard sometimes with agents, they don't want to follow. So I guess that will intend that you as a team leader, you have to be recruiting all the time because, like you said, not everyone is a good fit for your team. So you have to be intense.
You're going to. You're going. If you don't have a good bench, this is the catch-22 for a leader. If you don't have a good bench or you're not actively recruiting, then you're not going to reinforce your expectations.
Correct. That makes sense.
The leaders that have great list of expectations and then they have people that have been there in that same level and never moved are the ones that aren't recruiting. But on the flip side, if you do it right and you reinforce that simple concept right, you're dangling this carrot to say to the agent, look, as you increase in your performance, I have higher quality leads. As you increase in your performance, I spend more quality time with you. Follow this list of expectations, and there's a lot more on the other side. Just keep growing. Instead, it's like, do this, show up to the office. For what? That's not a way outside of the real estate industry, even in independent contractor companies. That's not the way they operate.
Right. That makes sense. Well, thank you for that, because I was thinking, how do agents and team leaders balance that? The expectations, the recruitment, the firing of the agents. It's got to be crazy if you're running a large team. So Andy, what's your take on virtual assistants? I wanted to ask you about that. Do you believe in leveraging virtual assistants only for teams, maybe for brokerages? What about solo agents? In general, what is your opinion on that?
So I have, I couldn't tell you a team that I work with or a company I work with that I haven't advocated for virtual assistants. As you know, some of my clients have had as many as 5 or 6 virtual assistants with VOOV. But the process in identifying where the gap is for virtual assistants starts with those 5 operational units. When we break down, the mistake that most leaders make is they try to hire for things they haven't mastered manually. It's the same thing with AI. We try to take a prompt with AI and have it do something that we haven't figured out how to master manually. And as a result, garbage in, garbage out. When I work with them to dissect where is your biggest need, when we take those 5 operational units and we break them down to what are we trying to accomplish? I don't want to hire a virtual assistant for marketing when they don't have an SOP for marketing, or they don't have a goal for marketing, or they don't have a consistent set of business for marketing. So they hire somebody, then they fire them. We're going to build things organically, and then we're going to bring that person in and say, okay, here's what I need you to do. I already have it built out. Let's go for it. Or we're going to find somebody like you guys have done an amazing job in the past where you have a higher level virtual assistant who has experience in that vertical operational unit. You said, I've done this for others. I can help you build the SOP. Sit here and talk to me. I'll ask you the questions, and then I'll build the actual checklist. Yes. Massive breakthrough for the leader. So I would argue that an individual agent, from being a producer myself, the first hire they should make is somebody that is physically there as a number two right alongside them. After that, that's where VAs are amazing when they come in. But in many cases, that leader, their highest and best use of their time is client facing in front of buyers and sellers, and having that person that can be physically present to develop the systems and the SOPs physically there is really, really important. This is my own experience. I know people have different opinions on this. And then thereafter, the VAs are phenomenal.
Great.
Helps
Great.
them stable.
Absolutely. Another question real quick is, the market is shifting a little bit. Are you having different conversations with your clients now? And if you are, what does it sound like? What are you saying to your clients now that you were not 4 or 5 months ago?
So I coach in about 20 different geographies, and I have a market that has 6+ months supply of inventory. So very much towards a buyer's market. And then I have markets that have a month and a half supply of inventory, very much a seller's market. And so to say that, the market is shifting, it just depends on which area. You take my good friends, the Caldwell Group in Northern Kentucky, in Cincinnati, and that particular market has a strong, stable market, month supply of inventory. I've never seen it in the 3-4 years we've been working together, never seen it north of 3 months supply. Well, you wonder why. That employment is really good. There's a ton of relocation from that Cincinnati market of employers moving people in and moving people out. There's military base. There's a lot of health in their economy. So you don't see that ups and the downs. On the flip side, Miami this last year was a dog. Miami was so quiet, very much buyer's market, and it was a challenge. And so, our conversations change a lot. But as a guy that's, grown up in the business and been active in it since '99, I've seen, as a kid and as an adult, I've seen my fair share of real estate ups and downs, and every market has movement. No market goes to zero. Even when it felt like it in 2007, 2008, it was because we were selling 1,500 homes a month in my market, and we went to 250. But we went to 250, not zero. The 250 was all foreclosures and short sales, but it was still moving. You had to adapt.
No, I get it. Real estate is very localized, but of course there is a national trend that is moving a little bit towards a more healthy market. I like to call it like that. I don't like to call it a buyer's market.
Very much balanced.
Much balanced market. 2020, 21, when we had 15-day supply.
But I coach a team in Santa Clarita, which is like the northern end of Southern California, and 46 people through open houses on a wet weekend. Not anything like the weather that was experienced in Texas and the East Coast, but 40+ people through one open house, multiple offers, and they're like, where did this come from? And my answer to them is, it's coming from certainty, because the market's not doing this. It's been more constant. There's more certainty with the consumer, and that's when they come off the fence. They buy when they think it's right. And so every market's a good market. It's just how you go and gather and grow is what changes.
Every market is a good market. That's a good phrase. I call this section the rapid fire round questions. So, one metric every agent should track weekly.
I didn't hear the whole question. One measure.
One metric. What metric every agent should track weekly?
Hands down, we said it earlier. New appointments met.
Okay.
By the way, I'll add one part B to that. I have a team that's tracking new appointments met, really bad data. So we're starting to track new leads generated. So leadership, if you can't get your agents to report on appointments, ask them every week, how many new leads did you generate?
Awesome. The single most productive daily activity for growth.
At least 2 hours of lead generation. If you're like, I don't have enough time for 2 hours of lead generation, that means you have enough appointments. If you don't have enough appointments, at least 2 hours of new lead generation.
There you go. Biggest mistake agents make when planning for the year.
I'm going to do this many transactions. And then I ask why. It's because it was more than last year. In other words, they set a goal that isn't based on a strong why. They set a goal that's just based on building. There's not enough emotion. There's not enough emotion that elicits their execution. We got to get that to be attached to a why, strong why.
Connection. There you go. Now I call this section clip worthy hooks. And this is something that you said. Your goal is not your plan. Your plan is your plan.
I said that.
Yeah. By the way, we do a lot of research. So we go to all clips of you and see how you have said in other places. And this is something you said.
So I think what would be fun is to load my coaching conversations into ChatGPT and ask it that question, because my clients could probably tell you a few of these, and they're usually ones they're making fun of. They one of them did, like around a Christmas time thing. They were holding up signs of stuff Coach Andy says, and I'm like, I say those things, I don't even realize it, and it is to be true. I have had some really fun hooks from clients for purposes of marketing. If you guys haven't seen my client Lauren Kirshen, who's in the Fort Worth market, she went on, and I think Tom used this for Listing Edge or something like that last year, and she goes, "Oh my God, my husband's going to kill me for telling you this." And then she went on to say the benefit of bringing her husband to a retreat, a Tom Ferry event. But the hook got you, and she's so good at creating hooks. So I would tell you that I think that the most recent hook that I'm saying is, if I told you the number one mistake, that's because so many people are just emphatically just like excited about learning AI.
Yes.
Excited about learning how to do more with it. And I said it a minute ago, but the hook that I find myself saying a lot lately is the number one mistake people make when trying to learn and grow with AI is they try to automate things that they haven't mastered manually.
Correct.
Which is lazy. You got to figure out how to do it before you're going to ask AI to do it. Or you ask AI, how do I do it? Unpack that and then have it automate.
Yeah, I believe AI, for the reasons that you just described, if you already master it and you want to make it faster and better, maybe use AI to help you unpack it, but don't try to use AI to create it from scratch without knowing what you're doing, because then AI is going to give you an insight that is perhaps not what you're looking to
I'll give you an
attain.
example of what you just said. I have several clients that are experimenting, to say the least. Experimenting, some of them are really getting good at this exercise. You know how in most CRMs, we could probably name several what we think is good as not. That's not the point. Most CRMs, they're web-based, and these clients that I'm talking about are using Comment or Atlas, agentic browsers. And instead of relying on the filters to find my next opportunity, they're giving a lot of background to AI and say, based on this, take control of my CRM. After they've already told it to be a master at Follow Boss Sync, whatever it might be, become a master of that, learn all the ins and outs of it. Go find my next 50 best opportunities that are sitting in my CRM that my agents aren't calling.
There you go. It has a purpose.
And then throwing up in their trash can when they find the next 50 opportunities, because some of them just bought a week ago.
Yes.
And we missed them. But having that, like in your VA or having a ISA team calling that list as well as the call filters, big opportunities there.
There you go. Now I want to ask you what we call the $1 million question, which is, if a new agent had to start in today's market with no database, no budget, what would they need to do first to build momentum?
It's an easy one for me. If a new agent had to start from scratch, when you say no database, I'm assuming you mean no sphere of influence. Like they're maybe
correct.
even
No sphere.
moving from another market. Happens all the time. It's an easy answer. So if you're watching this and that's you, join a productive team. Because everything that you need to create momentum is sitting on the team, and they're perfectly designed to free you up to find people to go on appointments in their database and go on those appointments. Yes, you might sacrifice a little bit of a commission split as a result of joining them, but what you don't sacrifice is time. You get your momentum quick and you accelerate. Then you could decide, is this team worthy of sticking around? Because most of them are built that way. They'll create a benefit for you for your sphere of influence and past clients. And they also have a benefit for you in working their leads. But hands down, if I was a brand new agent, knowing what I know in 25 years of this business, I would join a productive team in a market. I can help you vet them, but hands down, join a team.
There you go. Now, Andy, any final message that you have for the industry in general?
Yeah, I have a final message, an easy one. There's a lot of change that is being talked about. There's a lot of, insider, oh my gosh, if you knew what company was going to be buying this company and so on. Here's my advice. Don't operate from fear. Don't be distracted by that stuff. I'm not saying don't be naive, but don't operate from a place of fear. As long as I've been in this, as many things that I've seen change, you're going to be okay. Lean in. Don't operate from fear.
There you go. Andy Nazaroff, thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity, man. Have a good one.
It was fun. Thank you. Bye-bye. Andy, thank you, not just for the time today, but for the clarity and strategy you bring to teams every day. This conversation will be gold for agents and leaders alike. And to our listeners, if this episode gave you insight, strategy, or motivation, please follow, like, share, and drop a comment. We have cracked open another powerful code. Now it's on you to take it forward. Until next time, keep showing up, keep refining your systems, and keep cracking the code.